Welcome to Mob Talk. Jason Harris guides our live weekly show with numerous automotive experts talking anything and everything automotive. Turn up the volume and let's get ready to rock.
I think when it comes to culture, all right, as an industry, all right, it is kind of the holy grail of what a dealership strives to do, is to create a culture within their business. And I think that culture has to go beyond just a good idea. It has to actually be embedded into a process for it to actually happen. But I don't hear that happen talked about a lot. I find a lot of the times we talk about the byproduct of culture. All right, amazing teams, great morale, people working towards the same goal and objective. But I believe that there is a way to actually process our way to culture. And I would love to kind of get your guys' thoughts and opinions on how you think as an industry we can process our way to a good, solid culture. Brian, if you're available, I'll start with you and I'll kind of work our way through the group.
Yeah, Mr. Culture just came in himself, Dusty.
I know, I saw that. That's I'm looking forward to getting to. Hey, Dusty, what's up? Thanks for joining us.
What's going on, guys? How we doing?
Doing good, man.
And Mr. Process over there, too.
Look at that.
Yeah, Jason. So, I mean, it's been years, and it's been years in the making where you're trying to build a culture and trying to just change perception of car dealerships. Like the first topic that we were talking about, and with us especially, we got in early with video. I kind of committed that even with Periscope. I remember that when it came out, and I was
damn,
like,
dude, you really dated yourself right now.
Exactly, I know. But it kind of started with our used car giveaway. We're not in a neighborhood. We're not in an area where a lot of people make the median income is pretty low. So winning a used car, people anticipated it every year. And it just, people in the dealership working there were excited when we were doing these things because on our social medias would just blow up and people would come in and say, you guys really give a car away? And I would create the YouTube videos. I go, yeah, that's them driving off, because they didn't believe, because people get screwed so many times, and it's new to them, right? So
100%.
in terms of culture, it's to build up the community, and then it just trickles in because we just want to be the dealership that people are talking about.
And you know what I love about you guys doing that is one of the best ways to process your way to culture is energy. Energy is key to culture. Like when we think of culture, it's a group of people, all right, that are collectively working together to a similar goal and objective, and remotely they can all act on their own because they're able to embrace what the overall culture is, right? Best example we all talk about is Disney, right? It's that attitude and that willingness to serve the other person, no matter if you're from the top or if you're the person that is, changing the garbage cans out. Right? You are willing to take the time to connect with that individual and then respond to them. And one of the key ways to do that is to process energy. And that is one thing that campaign does for you, Brian. Is it processes, it's a process that generates energy within the dealership and a message that people can connect to, but within the dealership and outside the dealerships, which then the byproduct is culture. See, I think people have to realize is that culture is a byproduct of the processes that we put in place. And that's an awesome process. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Hey, Marco, I know you're a big culture guy because I know me and you have had many conversations on this before. All right. I would love to kind of get your thoughts on how you think that we can process our way to culture.
Process our way to culture. It's, it needs to have a budget, I think, to start off.
No, that's a good point. No, that's a really good point, man. It's not a free thing, right? Processes aren't always $0 elements.
Yeah, so I think it needs to be something that has to be discussed, and a number needs to be allocated towards it. because otherwise all that happens is you talk about it and just it never goes forward. There needs to be a strategy, a budget, and a plan, obviously, to make it all come together. But I think culture is a word that's been tossed around a lot in the past 5-6 years. I think
know, it's a
in the
buzzword.
dealership world, yeah,
Mhm.
that's what it is. The buzzword. Well said. And but I don't think I think people just say it and don't realize what it takes to build culture within the dealership. So yeah, I don't know. It's just some dealerships do it really well. They have different processes in place to cultivate it, and they stand out, and you can see it by their retention and all that, and both the sales staff and the clients, right? Because it affects both sides, right?
Dude, I
So
love the fact that you brought that up, Marco, because I think that's a great nuance when it comes to culture. Is that when we're speaking of culture, we're not just talking about the culture that people see from the outside in, but we're talking about the culture within the dealership. So it's like not only do how our customers look at our culture and how do they maybe categorize our culture or describe our culture, but how does an employee describe and categorize our culture, right? Look, from experience, and this is me speaking from experience, right? A happy, committed employee with a clear direction of what the culture is one of the best salespeople you can ever have, or the best staff you can ever have. All right. And that excitement and that connection to the why overspills into the consumer itself. Mike, I know me and you have actually talked a couple times about culture. Guys, I'm going to kind of work my way through the entire room. I would love to kind of get your thoughts, and then Michael, and then Terry. I'm going to kind of work my way down to Dusty, Danielle, and John as well. So Mike, thoughts when I say how do we
Real
process our
quick,
way to
Jason.
culture? Yep. No, go ahead, Ed. What you got?
Yeah. So before Mike goes, Marco did bring up a good point, and it's the money, right? I mean, we
Yeah.
put those car giveaways, we build it in the marketing budget. That's part of it. So definitely great point, Marco.
It's not cheap. It's not free. All right. It's both time and money that it requires to actually create culture.
it bleeds though. It bleeds out. It's obvious from the outside, right?
It is. And Marco, I love the idea. I think some of the best dealerships that I have ever sat down with and had the opportunity to coach or train with that had an amazing culture, they also had a defined budget that went along with cultivating that culture. So I'm with you, Marco. That's awesome. Hey, Mike, love to get your thoughts, man.
You know, one of the things in the pandemic that I watched a whole bunch over across the country in Canada and the United States, there's Rob Ruth. Bob Ruth.
Bob's
He's
amazing. Where's Bob? We need to get Bob in this room. Good call.
I know, right? Right. He's such a great guy, but he had he took the 22-day challenge. There's 22 servicemen and women that take their own lives. So he did 22 days of 22 push-ups. But he not only did it for himself, but he roped in his whole staff, and they got into the lot, and they all did the 22 push-ups. Everybody in the organization together, and that's kind of culture that they taped it for the whole world to see.
Well, it's collective effortness with a purpose.
Yeah,
that's what culture is. It's collective effortness with a purpose.
And it was over and above them. It was for the movement of bringing awareness to something bigger than they were. And that's kind of what we're talking about. It didn't take any money. Would you go out and do the push-ups with the rest of the staff?
Yep.
Every one of them said yeah. And there's a reason why everyone said yes. Because of the culture that that he's built. He's built loyalty. And that when COVID hit, he was like beside himself, doing videos in the dark in his dealership. He was the only one there. And how recovery with his rest of his staff. That's what makes him so strong, is that he knows that he doesn't need to do it alone, but he has the leadership skills that are making his people loyal and to follow him till, to the ends of the earth.
Oh no, man, I'm totally with you. That is a great example of how we process our way to culture. And that's kind of what we kind of talked about earlier too, is like it does come from the top down. All right. But if you are not intentional with your efforts, then it will never actually get executed. Hey, real quick before I move on to Michael, and I'm gonna work my way down to Terry, Dusty, Danielle, John, and Dan. What's up, Dan? Thanks for joining with us tonight. My name is Jason Harris. This is Automotive Talk, a sit down with the strategy mob. This is a recorded conversation, so please watch your fucking language. No, I'm just kidding, guys. I don't actually give a crap. We've had a great conversation tonight. We've already talked about the stigma of being a car salesman, the worst thing a vendor has done or can potentially say to you. And currently, we're on an amazing topic of how to process your way to culture. I don't believe culture is something that just accidentally happened. Culture is something that we intentionally put into place and process our way to. But I'd love to get your guys' thoughts and opinions on this. Mike, thanks so much for your input. Michael, I am on to you. Brother, what do you think?
So I think a little bit of a different perspective.
Please.
So when we're talking about processing culture and what the byproduct is of having team morale and other things that you had mentioned earlier, Jason, I think even before looking at it from a team view, I think you need to look at it from an individual perspective as well.
All right.
Like if you're a sales rep at a Nissan dealership, there's plenty of sales reps at Nissan dealerships. You're all there to sell Nissans and make money, support your family, support your lifestyle, what have you. But different people from different backgrounds in their own personal life absorb information differently. Some people are more audio focused, some people are more visual focused. I think it's truly understanding each individual in the team before making it a cohesive unit to then go forth and continue the processing.
I like that. That makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, if there is a level of preparation that is required till we can get to the mindset that we can actually develop out these processes and then execute them. Well said. Thank you, Michael. I really appreciate it. Hey, Terry, I'm going to put you up on the stage, man. Terry, I'd love to get your thoughts of how we process our way to culture, man.
I love this freaking question. I just had never, I never really thought about it to me, it was always intuitive that you have to create and process your way to culture. As I first thought about your question, one of the people with the processes was, and I'm going to go back further than Periscope and go to Big Blue and IBM.
Yep.
And then I kind of carried forward going, what are some of the businesses that I've had that I've been involved with? And there were softball teams, there were poker parties, there were this, and it
that didn't happen by
always
accident, right? Like that didn't happen by accident. You had to put a process in place to get that shit done.
You had to have a process in place. We're going to do this, this, and this, and then we're going to go play cards, or this, and this, and we're going to go to play softball. Whatever, there was a reward, and so you put that in place. And I just had never thought. For me, it was intuitive that that's what you do. And I've listened to dealers, and I know Dusty gets a chance right now to kind of talk about it. Dusty has done that at his store, and I think that this best serves him because he's put a great process, a culture processed his way to culture. And I think they've done a great job. In smaller units like mine, it's a bit different and more fragmented, but in the dealership, I think it's necessary. I mean, not necessary, but important to do that. I think it's mandatory.
Right, because you have to be intentional. You can't just wake up one day and expect the fact that you actually have a culture. You have to actually really dig deep and plan this crap out. I mean, look, I'm a workaholic, okay? I'm the first one to admit that I will literally work 12, 14, 16, 17 hours a day if I just don't be intentional about my time, right? If I'm not intentional, I won't spend time with my kids. I hate to say it. It is what it is. I know that's not a popular cultural thing to say, but it's true though, right? So if I'm going to, and this is kind of what we're talking about here, it's like we have to be intentional. Terry, man, I'm with you, man. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Hey, we have a couple people that just joined the room. Thank you so much for joining the room. I'm just going to do a quick reset And let's see if I can live up to Dusty's expectation of what a reset is, because he is the reset master. All right, my name is Jason Harris. This is Automotive Talk. This is a sit down with the strategy mob. This conversation is being recorded, so please watch your fucking language. No, actually, I don't give a shit. No worries, guys. But we've had some amazing conversation tonight. All right, we've already talked about the stigma of being a car salesman, the worst thing a vendor has said or done to you. And currently we are on the topic of how to process your way to culture. I do not believe culture is something that happens by accident or organically. I believe culture is something that happens intentionally, and I believe that we need to process our way to it. Dusty, you are the next one in line. What's up, Dusty? Thank you for taking the time to jam with us tonight.
No, thanks for having me. I love getting in these rooms, and culture's a big deal to me. I like to think of myself as a champion of dealership culture because, and let me start by saying this: I learned my culture, or what it was like to have a great culture when I was in the Navy. So we used to have this thing called shipmate self, which means the ship always came first, and your shipmate came second.
That's awesome.
And then you always came last. That was kind of the way it worked, but it got you in this mindset of ownership. So everything that we did in the Navy reminded us that we were on our second home. When you're on the ship, you're constantly cleaning. The reasons that you're cleaning is for upkeep and your safety and all this type of stuff. So one of the things that I implemented, and it's going to seem crazy at first, is we don't have people to clean our dealership. We actually do it ourselves. So every service, everybody in parts,
Nice.
the ladies in the office, all of the salespeople, right up to the general manager, we all, like clean the bathroom, sweep, mop, all that stuff. And one of the most coveted jobs on the cleaning bill is to go sweep the lot for cigarette butts. And I enjoy doing that because it shows the culture. Like, it's one of my favorite things to do, or mop. I love mopping. I was in the Navy, so I'm a swabby. So of course I'm going to go out there and love mopping. I was trained by the government professionally to do it. So there we go. Tax dollars at work. But sweeping the cigarette butts, you'll have a customer that pulls up and they're like, "Oh, you take care of the lot? Are you like the lot tech?" "Oh no, I'm the general sales manager." And they go, "What?" So it's funny to see a shocking look on their face. But I do it because it reminds me that that's my second home. That I own part of the dealership. It's right down to each individual salesperson. That's where they take care of, and they take pride in it. And so when they leave the dealership in the evening time, number one, I like to have a culture where I never have to apologize to anybody. That's a big deal with me. And number two, I love that my everybody that I work with will wear their shirts, to church, out in town, everywhere they go, because they're proud of their brand. They're proud of who they work with. Mm-hmm. And that's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing. And everybody, when they're all proud like that, everybody becomes a salesperson for the dealership. Not selling a car specifically, but selling the idea of working with the dealership. And everybody knows
what you're doing is you're processing pride. Look, mm-hmm. I think a lot of people think that pride is a byproduct of something. But no, what you talked about and taking ownership of the cleanliness of a dealership, all right, it is processing pride. Look, I'm the same way, all right. I come from a very militaristic background where, is like you had to take pride in everything. The way you made the bed, all right, the way that you pressed and put your clothes on, and there's an element to that is processing a level of pride. And look, pride is something that you have to be intentional about. You can't. It just doesn't. If it just happens one time, that's great, all right. But cleanliness is a big opportunity, not only to create ownership, but the byproduct of creating ownership is developing out the culture. Like, dude, I freaking love it. It's awesome.
Yeah. It's and one more thing about processes, and I believe as managers, it's imperative that the folks that work with us believe that our job and the only parts of our job is to make them more money and make their job easier. So if you're putting a process in place,
like it,
feel the temperature. My most important KPI at my dealership is the happiness of the sales staff
100%.
and those that I work with. And so if I'm going to put a process in place, you better believe it's been put in place so that individual salespeople will increase the amount of vehicles they sell and increase the amount of connections they make. So if I'm putting a process in place that slows down the sales process or slows down or gets in the way of selling a car, it's a terrible process.
Dude, Dusty,
So,
I am so with you on this. I think as an industry, if we were able to kind of step back and look at every single
Absolutely.
process that we put out there and say that the goal of the process is to generate employee happiness, because I think there's a lot of people in this room or people that are listening right now that actually would agree with me on this, is that happy employees create happy customers. All right. But we got to process our way to happy employees. It is not just an
So
organic process. It's just not organic. It has to be intentional. Thanks, Dusty. I really appreciate it, man. That's awesome. Hey, Danielle.
Thank you.
Danielle,
I just want to tag on to that real quick.
Yeah,
I apologize
that's cool.
for cutting you off, Danielle. It's so bad of me. But I'd love it if a general manager went in tomorrow and said, guys, we just fired the cleaning staff and you guys are going to clean the dealership. Now that would be punitive.
Oh,
but
shit,
the way
that
that
would
Dusty
suck.
portrayed it, that would suck. And the way that Dusty portrayed it is, this is your house, this is our house, and we're going to clean our house. Own it. And
Love it.
it's so I think it also was in the presentation.
100%. 100%.
I really like that piece of it, Dusty.
Terry, that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up, is that a process is only as good as how we actually present that process to our staff. And when you present that process in the way of like, hey, this is you taking ownership, that goes a hell of a long ways.
Yeah. I want to say this because this also goes along with something that I just, I hate the 50 call a day talk. 50 calls a day. I just, oh my God, it's the most god awful thing. And so my process is not 50 phone calls a day. I want 11 contacts. And to define a contact of actually making physical, voice, text, email, some type of contact with a customer where you actually have a conversation. So that's my push. That's the goal that I set for people. I don't want to hear about 50 phone calls. I cannot stand that. I want to hear about your 11 contacts that you made. So it empowers the salespeople to do what they have to do to get in front of as many people, to get in front of people, not to leave a message or fake a phone call. So that's all I got to say about that. Thanks. Love you all. Fine Americans.
You rock, Dusty. Hey, Danielle, thanks for joining the conversation tonight, man. I really appreciate it. You've been so patient. I would love to get your thoughts. For everyone that's joining the room right now, I'll do a quick reset. My name is Jason Harris. This is Automotive Talk, a sit down with the strategy mob. We are recording this, so have a little fun, but watch your effing language. No, I'm just kidding, guys. We're having fun. But right now we are talking about how to process our way to culture, and we're kind of working our way down the room right now because I really want to hear everybody's thoughts and opinions, because I don't believe culture is something that happens organically. It's something that happens intentionally, and to be intentional, we have to process it. Danielle, thanks for taking the time.
Hi, Jason. Thank you for the invite to this room. I love it so far, and I took so many takeaways, and I'm going to kind of tie down everything that I heard from you. I was briefly in car sales. So as a female, what I can say is I started in sales in veterinary medicine, then I jumped into insurance. The culture was amazing. So culture is important. And when I got into car sales, I was fortunate to be trained by someone who was very successful in the state of California as well as here in Pennsylvania, where I'm from. But it was before the pandemic. So you could tell that the culture wasn't there. They even had said, if things don't change in our sales meetings, we're not going to be here. And today, the dealership does not exist as a car dealership anymore. And that's actually where I got my first car from graduation of high school. the owner's grandma, like they had someone pass away, and one of my goals was to obtain an orange Lamborghini because that was my favorite car. And
Good color choice.
cancer, yeah, it's good choice of a car. So cancer was the reason. So it was very near and dear to my heart because even though that was my first experience in the car sales industry, and I saw that the culture was lacking, so it's very important. I knew what to expect from insurance industry, and you have to be on your A game. You have to be happy. You can't be having a bad day because you're not going to sell. So, I mean, you could if you can fake it till you make it. So I can't exactly say that, but it was important to have a good culture. And now it still exists under a different name, but it sells RVs. I have no idea who owns it now, but the mentor I had was wonderful. And the takeaways I took from giving away a car, that's amazing because the insurance companies do that.
Yep.
It creates motivation. It makes everybody happy to see your coworkers successful. That's what it should be because you want to learn something from somebody. You want to get better in the end, right? And then Dusty was saying sweeping cigarettes. So general sales manager comes out, sweeps the parking lot. That's not something you expect. And that shows respect. Like you respect your baby. It's growing.
100%.
And you take pride in where you work. And,
Right.
and I do have grandfathers that were in the military. Unfortunately, they're not left. So they passed away. But when it came down to military style, and I grew up, I don't like wrinkles in my sheets. I was never able to be in the military, but that comes from that. Like I watched my grandfather, they make beds, and I would wake up in the middle of the night. I didn't like wrinkles in my sheets. So it is so important to have a clean work environment, be happy, and you don't want people thinking, oh, this person's a used car salesman, so they're going to try to, pull something over on you because that's what they do. Because
No,
I know
100%.
people, right? And there comes the stigma. I know people that sell cars that were very good friends of my grandma, and they do wonderful. They have multiple dealerships, and in fact, that's where I got most of my cars, besides the one that I worked at. And they take pride. They too wear their work shirts around, and it's happy to see that. So,
look, I'm so with you, Danielle. I mean, look, if we're going to process our way to pride, all right, we have to build processes that allows our staff to actually take ownership. In fact, when I owned my own dealership, my Mitsubishi dealership, I used to actually test this, and I wouldn't say anything to the staff. I would grab a snow broom because up here in the north, all right, we'd have to clear the lot of snow, all right, and I would be the first one out there clearing snow. I'd be the first one in the truck. I'd be in the truck plowing the snow on the lot. All right. But what I was always, and I got to be honest with you, it literally, it was one of the best moments of being an owner was seeing my staff automatically watch me do it and come out, put their jackets on, grab the snow brooms and start uncovering without me asking. Because they saw that, look, this is something I own and I'm proud of it, but they can participate in that pride by coming out and participating with me. Thank you, Danielle. I really appreciate it. That's absolutely awesome.
Thank you.
Hey guys, for everyone who's listening right now, this is Automotive Talk, a sit down with Strategy Mob. Right now we are talking about how to process our way to culture, and we're having a blast doing it. Hey, John, what is going on? You are my next victim tonight. I'm working my way kind of down the list right now. John, I know you do some amazing things, and I know you probably got some thoughts on how we can potentially process our way to culture.
Thanks, Jason. I'm happy to be here tonight with everyone. Culture is kind of one of those interesting things. I think a lot of people believe in it, but they're not exactly sure how to get there. And I've worked for a couple different groups throughout my career, and independents, private, and then public companies. And you really have to have a defined, culture for your company, and then it has to start with your leadership team, your general managers, and then kind of work its way through the store. And the big thing is, it's the values, it's the beliefs, it's the attitudes of the employees. And the interesting thing is, how do you get it there? Because when someone goes into a store, whatever position you are, especially if it's management, everyone comes in with ideas. But what happens is you bring those ideas, and while they may be good ideas, some of them may not align with the culture of the store. So you always have to really find out from the top and work your way down what it is. Otherwise, you then get the mixed message. And we've probably all been at a store in our career where, every time there's a new GM, it's a new way of doing it. There's a new set of processes. They want to do, something with used cars. Next person comes in and then they've got a different game plan, or, TOing deals and, things with service. So it definitely has to start with the top. Some of the things that we do in our store is, obviously everyone has to have, goals, whether it's on the sales side, the service side, or the parts side, and know what it is. So you're kind of committing to something, and then you're looking to achieve that throughout the month. And then it has to be measured daily. And when you start doing that, everything starts to click together, because everyone wants to be on a winning team. It's fair to say that everyone probably wants to play with Tom Brady, whether you like him or you hate him. The guy proves that he wins championships. So you have to think of, the GM of your store, or if you're part of a larger group and you're an executive, you have to be that Tom Brady. And you have to, your employees have to want to work for you. And when they want to work for you, it's not really work. And that's kind of what it's all about. That's when you get, the team all going in the same direction in every department.
It's when we can process a clean process where they can participate in the win.
Yeah.
Right. Because then they take ownership of that achievement, and then they're looking to kind of, look, when something feels good, we want to repeat that emotion. Yeah. Right. So then it just becomes a part of the culture that we're generating, creating, and cultivating a winning culture.
100%. One of the things we do, and we found that this helped us out a lot. So, the sales side obviously always has an opinion of the service side. The service side always thinks that, sales doesn't really think of them. They dump cars on them, and, they want to deliver a car. So when we started cross-training employees, in like positions, so a service advisor and a sales position, everyone started to appreciate each other a little bit more, because on the service side, they realized that upstairs on the sales department, if they don't actually sell a car, they might not eat. On the service side, they realize that, okay, these customers are coming in, they either have an appointment, maybe it's, an emergency towing. It's a little bit different. You now have that customer in front of you that needs, whether it's warranty work, a service, maintenance, but there's also an upsell ability there. And everyone started to appreciate each other a little bit more, realizing what each department goes through. So that's something that I think everyone should do. And you'll really start to see your team grow, because there's no more, they don't appreciate us. Everyone appreciates everyone, because they know where the ball was before it got to them.
And you know what? I think that's cool, because we were talking about earlier how we process pride. Now what we're talking about is kind of how we process ownership, right? And look, when you get the feeling or the taste, that yummy taste of winning, right? There's a sense of ownership that goes along with that. Yep. And but we have to process. We have to be intentional with it. John, thank you so much for bringing that to the team or the group here tonight. That's been amazing. Thank you so much.
You got it.
Philip, what's going on, man? How are you doing?
What's happening, Jason? Thanks for bringing me up and bringing me in here. Great room. Love what I'm hearing. So what did you say it again?
Okay,
Process your way to culture.
exactly, because I'm a firm believer that culture doesn't happen organically. We actually have to be intentional about it, and to be intentional, we actually have to develop our processes. We've done some amazing conversations so far about how we process pride, and John just kind of brought of kind of how we process ownership through ensuring that everyone kind of tastes, success. But that has to be consistent. We have to be intentional with those efforts. So I'd love to kind of get your thoughts. And then there's no wrong or right answer here in any way or form. I'm just kind of opening up to the entire group here as of how do we process our way to a great culture.
Well, I've been saying people plus processes equals culture. I think that's the most simple way you could say it. I've been saying that for a while. I'd say my first 2 chapters of my book are really about this. I mean, and I'm asking Dusty to write the foreword because I love what Dusty has to say. But yeah, it's people knowing what to do. So, your whatever your processes are, people have to know what to do. You can't over process because you've got to give people the ability to think, and you've got to empower them. But there's definitely certain things that you've got to have in place, and those are your processes just to have, your guys, everything kind of working seamlessly, right? So, I mean, we know the really strong non-negotiables, and there doesn't need to be a lot of them, but they do have to be that non-negotiable thing just because people have to know what to do. Now, there's always a time to break the rules too.
Sure.
It's a rarity, right? But Dusty and I have been talking, and I love what he talks about this quite a bit, and it's come up quite a lot. And he calls it, and obviously we all call it. Some dealerships do surveys on it, but employee satisfaction index, right? Your ESI. So your employees' happiness. That's what's going to get translated to the customer. So keeping your people excited and happy. My all-time favorite sales quote, I put that when I write about this, is from Zig Ziglar, and he said, "Sales is a transfer of feelings." I like sales as a transfer of enthusiasm.
I like that.
And that's really what I think happens in a great dealership, where you actually see the people plus the processes equaling the culture. People are enthusiastic, they're excited, and that gets transferred to your customer's experience, which is, at the end of the day, that's the gold, right? Is their 100%. Experience. And we all know that's why we buy. We buy off of how we feel, how somebody else makes us feel. That's what gets you to like somebody. That's what gets you to spend more money if we're talking about money. But at the end of the day, that's what builds that culture. So, love this topic. I mean, this is
no, dude. I'm so with you on this. It is about processing enthusiasm, right? And because look, I think a lot of people think that enthusiasm is just something that is just a byproduct of the individual or the circumstances we put. And John was kind of talking about that earlier, kind of alluding. It's just kind of like, how do we process that enthusiasm, that energy? Because I think there's a lot of us in this room right now has had the opportunity to be in a lot of different dealerships and talk to a lot of different businesses out there and realize that enthusiasm can vary wildly. I mean, just wildly, right? But I'm thinking about, the most successful companies or dealerships that I've sat down with have found a way to process that enthusiasm. And if anybody in the room, look, as I'm kind of coming to you, I'm kind of working through the group right now. If you got some thoughts on that, I'd love to hear it. Hey, Dan, what's going on?
Here, I'll give you
Phil, if you want to add to that, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'll give you one good one, Jason, it's a care board. This will help a lot. You basically put a board in the lunchroom, and you put some note cards there and a pen, and you're incentivizing people helping each other.
Nice.
So essentially, when you do something nice for me, or Dusty does something nice for me, and you got to start it, you got to get a couple people to start it. But I go and I write on a card, "Hey, thank you, Dusty. You didn't have to do that for me. That was so awesome. and I sign it, Philip, and we tack it up on the care board, and then people start writing each other notes for helping each other, and then everybody else sits in the lunchroom reading those, and you can even pull a couple of them off that are really special for your weekly meeting, maybe even daily meeting. But that's a really cool way to get people kind of working together and helping each other.
That's cool. That's really cool.
That is how to be intentional, Philip. That is absolutely awesome. I love the visual. All right. I love connecting kind of the two people together. I love kind of the pat on the back it's just kind of highlighting that person's actions. Man, that is a great way to kind of embed a process that can generate enthusiasm around each individual's actions. That's awesome. Thanks.
It works. And there's a great acronym for CARE. It's commitment, attitude, reliability, and excellence.
I like that. That's very cool. Thanks, Philip. All right, guys, I'm going to move.
Of course. Thank you.
Hey, guys, real quick, I'll reset the room. This is Automotive Talk, a sit-down with the strategy mob. I am recording this conversation, so please watch your fucking language. No, I'm just kidding. I don't give a crap what you guys say. But we are having some amazing conversations tonight. Currently, right now, we are talking about how to process your way to culture. Philip just added some great, just actionable stuff, how we can process enthusiasm. Everybody has kind of brought some value to the conversation. The cool thing is this conversation is being recorded and it will be put out there. So if you guys ever need to go back and listen to it, please do so. I'm going to work my way kind of through the room right now. Right now we have Dan. Hey, Dan, if you're available, I'd love to kind of get your thoughts and opinions on how we can process our way to a culture. Hey, Ed, I hate to put you up on the stage, man. If you can hear me, that's great, but I would love to kind of get your thoughts. Then I'm going to go to William. I got Nicole. I got Lou, and then I'm going to circle around. We're going to start our next conversation. But Ed, what is going on? I'd love to hear your thoughts on how to process our way to culture.
Well, for the past probably 8 or 9 years of my life, I've been walking into stores that have not exactly been successes. I mean, right now, I work for a group, and I've had to go in and evaluate a store in the South that, well, frankly, lost over $100,000 in January and $200,000 in February.
Ooh, that's tough.
It's really kind of a rough time in life.
Yep.
So I walk into stores that have broken cultures all the time. Stores that don't have processes, don't execute processes. And frankly, a lot of stores think they have processes, but they don't actually have processes because nobody's actually doing them. So you have to start out and build a culture, and people are very important to that. And a lot of times you don't end up with the same people you started out with. Sometimes you have to drop people off the team that aren't going to follow the procedures and follow the culture. So sometimes you just got to let people go on with their life and find a new way. And the biggest thing is my father, was a car dealer before me, and he said this, that it's probably the truest thing ever. Processes sell cars. Processes right service. Everything in the dealership is about processes. In my daily life right now for this group is I put in processes all over this dealership to try to make it better. I also have to evaluate it. I've had to change the GM. I've had to change a lot of people in the store, but we've already made money. We made over $200,000 in March and probably going to do the same or better in April. I mean, that's just how it is. So you got to rapidly build a culture. And I love what people say about all this time of, I take the temperature of people and stuff like that. I don't really have the luxury of taking the temperature of people. I've got to put in things that we know and put in things that are culturally important to the rest of the group. And sometimes I have to find people that will become a part of that. Because if they don't choose to become a part of that, I have to find them a new home. That's just where I am. I guess I live on a really weird end of the business, I guess. Right
No,
now.
I got to be honest with you, man. Ed, I love the place that you live within the business because, to your point, when it comes to good culture, look, not everyone's going to fit the mold. And I think that's one thing that as an industry or as a management team or an owner, all right, we have to be honest to ourselves. That if I'm going to define a culture goal and I'm going to develop out the processes to help meet and achieve that goal of that goal of culture, all right, that not every single person out there is going to fit that bill. I mean, Ed, I'll give you a great example. I mean, I just recently talked to an individual that I remember about 5 years ago, actually probably closer to 6 years ago. All right. It was a family-owned business. All right. And this was one of the cousins of the owner that had worked as an F&I manager at this dealership for almost 17 years. All right. After reviewing kind of all the processes and operations and just kind of identifying where the weaknesses and strengths were, I actually recommended that this individual probably shouldn't work here anymore. And that was a pretty big pill to swallow.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm telling the family that a family member shouldn't be working at the dealership because it is a place where they're just their heart, their passion, their love is no longer in it, and it's being seen in the bottom line within the P&L. All right, and I had to have a real conversation with him. Now, I just recently had a phone call with him in the last few weeks. All right, where he actually thanked me. Actually called me up. He DM'd me and said, "Jay, can we have a conversation?" I'm like, for a moment, it took me a moment to remember this person. And I said, yeah. So I called him and said, look, I've been meaning to do this for a while, but I want to thank you for telling my family to fire me. Because he's now in a place where he is so happy because he feels like he's found his actual purpose. And before, he thought his purpose was just working within the family business, and that's not necessarily true. So
No.
man, I hear you, man.
No,
It's a hard place to be.
I've actually done that before. I've actually worked in the family business, so I can tell you exactly how that can go down the wrong way. Two things. There's a book out there that's kind of obscure by a Canadian.
Oh yeah.
That Volkswagen actually gave it to me called Hierology. You should read
Hierology is a great book. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a little obscure. That's a good one. And if you ever want to hear about culture, if you can find Jack Gentile, who runs, or at least he used to run, I haven't checked on him in a while, who runs Rick Case, you should listen to what he has to say about culture. It's a really, really powerfully good speech. I heard it twice in 1 week, one at Automotive Leadership Roundtable and one at the first 10X conference. And what he says about it's pretty strong. So
I'm definitely gonna have to take a look at that. Thank you, Ed. I really appreciate you throwing that out there. That's a great call to action for anybody that's watching or listening right now.
Hey, real quick, Jason, while he's talking about that, obviously Simon Sinek, start with why, and he has a great post today on LinkedIn talking about businesses and transacting and treating it like a date. And
nice.
It's a great little video. You guys go check it out.
That's the one thing I wish Clubhouse kind of had was within these rooms, we can throw kind of like a conversation piece too, because that would be a great link to kind of share with everyone. All right. Hey, I'm going to work my way down to William. William, what is going on, man? I appreciate you hanging in there. Thank you so much for participating in tonight's conversation. I'm sure you kind of heard what kind of tonight's topic is. I'm trying to go deep into really identifying processes, all right, to help develop out a culture, because I'm a firm believer that you have to be intentional. It's not something that happens organically.
Absolutely. One of my favorite subjects, actually. And I really resonate with it because I came into the automotive industry in a bad culture, and I wasn't one of the really.
I'm with you on that one. I did too.
So, and of course, over time, I've done my best to try to evolve it. I come in and there's guys taking bets on the front of the dealership as to how long I'm going to last because I'm the new guy in town, right? Never sold cars before, and here it is. Almost 13 years later, I've outlasted them all. But it just comes down to something that I was thinking about. You can say, are you a leader, or you can say, am I the example, right?
Good point.
So Dusty hit it right on the head with what he was saying that he does, right? I do the same exact thing, right? I was out the other day. Of course, I wasn't doing the whole broom dustpan so much as I just felt a little easier to take an electric leaf blower and blow the line up.
Well, that works too.
And then the dustpan worked. So remember that, Dusty. Anyhow, that is the way, because I always had this philosophy: if you take care of the lot, it takes care of you. And
yep.
That's the thing. I'll go out and do that stuff when my tasks are done. If there's nothing else going on in the store, just to have something to do, because it's my house. That's the way I look at it.
If I'm there, that's a representation of me, and I can't have cigarette butts out in front of my place when that's my invitation. That's my calling card, right?
Hey,
I
William,
got to get
I
up
am
there.
so with you on that. But like, how do you think we process our way to that ownership? Because I don't think ownership happens accidentally. I think there is a series of little things or processes that have to be put in place so that any individual within our organization can feel that level of ownership.
Well, that's where you just get rid of that's not my job. Well, if it's not your job, whose
Yeah,
job is it?
yeah.
And if you can't figure out whose job that is or how it is that person is going to be aware that the job needs to be fulfilled, then you got to do it yourself because obviously you're the one that noticed it. So if you noticed it, get to it and get it done. Just knock that off the list. Because you gotta. My whole thought process on this whole thing from the day I started was, it may not be my name on the marquee, but I'm going to act as if it was. It's my name on the building. So anything that happens while my guest is at the store, that's on me. That's a direct reflection of me, whether it's a good experience or a bad experience, whether it's directly because of me or because of something else that's going on around me. That is a reflection of me, and I want to make sure it's the best it possibly could be. One thing we had going on a while back during my previous ownership of the dealership was that we had basically what we call a catch them doing good report, right? So it's
Nice.
very similar to the other thing with the bulletin board, but it was like, we used to throw darts on the weekly meeting for the entire sales staff if we had X amount of gross or X amount of unit sales or whatever, and your point value was your bring home cash and fist that day.
Oh yeah, those are
So
always fun.
that was your little bonus, right?
But you have to
So it's
process
like,
fun too, right? Look,
right. So if
you
somebody
have to
talks you over
process it.
the head,
Fun doesn't happen accidentally. You actually have to be intentional about it.
right. So and that was the whole thing. Everybody's in a good mood when they got a little cash in their pocket.
Exactly.
But we had it too, where like if let's just say this was my first example with it. I didn't like the way I was onboarded. So when this other guy got onboarded for the first time, it just so happened it was the used car manager's son, but he was still a green pea. He didn't know what he was doing. He just knew some things that Dad had told him from growing up. But he caught a customer late one evening. It's going to keep us after hours. And I'm like, dude, just go take care of the go gas up the car, get it ready. I'll do the delivery part, the checklist, make sure that they understand everything, all the paperwork before they go into finance, and just move along quickly that way. Well, the sales manager knew I was already off shift. I didn't have to stick around that night, and it was past close. So
See,
I
there
walked
you
in
go.
that meeting. I got 5 extra darts just for sticking around late that night. I think that was, probably at least $100 in my pocket by the time I got done throwing them.
No, you know
But
what though, William, I love the fact that you're kind of bringing up the darts, and I don't know if necessarily because like I've done the dart thing, right? And there's a series of it. Look, if you process gamification, all right, what you're doing is you're processing fun. All right, fun can if fun if directed in the right direction, right, can develop into your culture, man. That's absolutely awesome.
right, and so like I said, it just after I got my bearings on what was going on at that point, I just took the ownership that it's not my name on the building, but it might as well be because everything is a direct reflection on me. If somebody else sells a car, it's not going to be that I get a piece of their commission. I only get paid on my effort. So if my efforts bring in the customer and they have a great experience, then I'm going to get paid on that. If they don't, I'm probably not getting the deal, or I'm getting a bad survey or something like that that's going to ding my income. So I always act as if, and that is the one thing that I've always preached.
But
And
see,
then,
William, I think with you though, it is a little bit in your nature to take ownership. But I think for a lot of people that are watching or listening right now, is that it does require a level of process, which you've talked a little bit about. So I think that's awesome.
yeah, it does take processing. And for processing, one of the things you got to learn is who's on your team.
Exactly. Oh, see, that's a great point. See, I think the process has to be developed to the individual or to the team. It's not just look. I think too often we determine good ideas should be developed into processes. Well, good ideas. I'll be honest with you. I hate good ideas. All right. It's really we have to first start with the team and develop out a process that is relevant and that connects with that individual or that team.
Absolutely, because you need to know what drives your team, because not everybody's going to be money motivated.
Exactly.
Some people are going to be more motivated by time with the family. Some people are going to be more motivated by their interactions with the people that they deal with, that they have things socially that they're doing and want to have supported. So if you find out what's driving those people on your team, then you can drive that bus and you can stop at every light all over town and pick up customers.
You know what, William? I think
everything.
that is a great point, and I'm going to have a couple other people kind of chime in on this as well.
Perfect.
I mean, this is something that we did at our dealership as well. I actually allowed my staff to choose their bonus, and their bonus could be between time, all right, money, or a product. And I would actually let them decide what that product was. I mean, I had one, and I remember I hired a salesperson that said, "Well, I don't understand this. What do you mean?" I said, "Well, is it time, money, or a thing that you want?" He's like, "I want a Ski-Doo." I'm like, "Okay, that's cool. I'm down with that." All right. So what's the monetary value of that? We looked it up. It's $12,000. Okay, that's cool. I'm going to create a goal and a series of processes that's going to get you to that, and that's what motivated him. But to your point, William, and thank you so much for throwing that out there. Is that there's not necessarily this is not a one size fits all scenario when we're talking about culture. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
Hey, Nicole, I'm not sure if you're able to hear me. I hope you are.
Hi.
Hey, Nicole, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm sitting here like spinning. I had to write sticky notes.
Hey, we've had a great conversation tonight, and I really appreciate you taking the time to participate. The current topic that we're talking about is how to process our way to culture. I don't believe that culture is an organic thing. I think it's something that has to be intentional, and therefore, for it to be intentional, we have to develop our processes. But I would love to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, and I love what everybody said. Ed was amazing. William, just everybody. Philip, I've been in rooms with you before, and you're incredible. Terry, the idea that, so I started in the car business, like, I was a teen. I always worked in my family store when I was in high school, and then later joined the family business. And I wasn't supposed to join the family business. So it was interesting hearing Ed talk about the family business. And I was never supposed to be in my family business, but I'm a singer, you guys, too. So
nice.
My stepfather said to me, he was the owner of the dealership, he said, "Come, you'll work in the family business. You'll sell some cars and you can come and go to your auditions." And so instead of being like a bartender or waitress, whatever, I meandered my way on to the used car lot. And, at that time, I was really the only girl, And so as a woman in the business, it's very tough. Like, you really have to develop that tough skin. And the culture for women in the dealership is really difficult at times.
Mm-hmm.
It's you really got to be competitive and stand on your own and be strong. And I think that still a lot of dealerships have not embraced women in the way that they should in that way. But that's not really what I was really I just wanted to say. I was thrown on that, and it was so funny. My dad said, "Okay, you're in the Army now," and it was like he made me do every single job in the dealership. Like, he's like, "You need to know what the janitor's doing. You need to, do the oil change. You need to be in service. You need to be, all the different departments." Because, he was very he never, I think that boss's kids are misunderstood a lot of times.
Sure.
I think a lot of the other sales, people think, "Oh, the kids got everything," or they're given everything. It's like I had the total opposite. Like, I was given nothing. Like, he was like, I was treated like a crap. Okay, like, to be honest with you, and like, okay, you're gonna do this, you're gonna work your way up. I saw that, Ed. You got it, right? Um, and it's like, and then so I was never even supposed to be in this business, but I learned it and loved it, and became really great at it. I loved selling cars. I was outside. We had one of the biggest used car lots in the country. I mean, a store that does 1,000 used cars a month, plus used cars. But being on there, I mean, I had to work outside in the sleet, the rain, the snow. I mean, it
Yep.
was like I was trained. But and I worked my way up, and then it became, when you get serious, I'll send you to dealer school. So I went through dealer school, and then that really puts you in working every single. That's what they do. They make you work in every single area of the dealership. So you really do understand everyone's job. But I think part of the problem with culture sometimes is that the culture actually works against everyone based on the competitive nature of it and the commission structures.
Well, that's
I
a
don't know if
good point, Nicole, is that when we speak of culture, a lot of people seem to think of a positive culture, but it is easy to breed a negative culture as well. I think there was another person that was speaking earlier that was alluding to this, and the first dealership I worked for was like this as well. Is that it had a culture around one thing and one thing only, and that was making money. And the time I spent at that dealership taught me a lot more about what not to do than necessarily what to do. So, culture can be generated both in a negative and a positive way. I'm 100% with you on that.
Yeah, so because of the commission structure and the fact that that can work against the very nature of being helpful,
Yep.
right, and helpful to other people, creates sort of like a self-centered, me, I got
Mhm.
the customer, I got to do this, I'm going to step on you, that kind of thing. And, I think we need a more of a we, not an I
I
attitude,
agree.
right? And a we, not an I, attitude of a process. And I think that when you were talking about salespeople being happy, I think salespeople are happiest when they are trained, when they understand how to deal with an objection,
Yes.
how understand what they can say to a client, being honest and direct. I mean, let's face it, the cars are the same at all the different dealerships. It's like, why is someone going to buy from you? They're going to
Exactly.
buy from you because you care, because you're different, because you're honest with the customer. And I think salespeople are scared to be direct with a customer in an honest way and really understand how to speak to a customer. And I think that part of creating a great culture is really taking training seriously. And
Yes.
that's honoring your salespeople and honoring your client, because they need to be the first priority. That client has to be the first priority. It's not about you. And that people need to feel valued and accomplished. Like, I think a lot of managers or dealers don't say, "Wow, you did a great job."
Yes.
That was hard to get from my dad. Like, he didn't do that. He did that through money. He felt that was the way.
Yep.
But it's really, people want to be told, you did a great job. You did good. And I don't know what it is about. I don't know. I think some people think that if you compliment, that someone won't work for you hard. I think it's the complete opposite. And if you really know what people's goals and dreams are, like I held a sales meeting one time, it was just on goals and dreams, and people were coming up to me like, "Wow, thank you for asking me that." Just like what you said,
Well, it's connecting with them.
Yeah,
It's
you've got
actually
to
giving a
connect.
shit.
Yeah, you've got to connect with people and understand. It's a rough business. It's like 1,000,000 hours a week, and people need a break. Like,
Yes.
honor what they're doing. So sorry if I sound like I'm on the soapbox.
No, Nicole. Look, I think you bring up a great point. Is that if you're going to be intentional with your culture, all right, then you actually have to identify what the ultimate goal and objective is. And I find so often I hear dealerships tell me, well, we want to be customer centric because that's a bit of a buzzword, right? All right, and well, if you can be customer centric, then your culture, holy crap, your culture, all right, the individuals, every single staff member within the dealership needs to embrace that the customer comes first before the profitability. And I don't think a lot of dealerships are willing to take that push.
Exactly. I don't understand. It's like, that's your customer. Like,
Damn
you
straight.
spend all this millions of dollars in advertising to get them there. To only piss them off because you don't answer the phone properly. Like, how about saying hello?
Look, Nicole, I'm so with you on this. It's something as simple as just saying hello. I'm actually running a campaign right now with a group, which is actually kind of cool that I'm running this campaign with this group right now, because the whole premise is that you call, we answer. And I know that sounds so simple and so stupid, but
it's
they've
the whole
committed to doing that.
Listen, I mean, to try to call a dealership, it's rough. Like, I even called. I had a deal for a dealer, whatever I called. The receptionist wouldn't give me the GM. I'm like, I have a deal for you. All right.
See?
Well, they're really busy right now. I have a deal for you. Are you ready? Like, it's wild. You know, millions of dollars to get people there only to turn them away.
100%.
It's wild. So thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate it. I don't want to dominate.
Nicole, thank you for, I'm not sure what part of the country you're in right now. Thank you for jumping in. For me, it's almost 10:30, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's so great to meet all of you. I love car people. Thank you.
And hey, for everyone that's watching and listening right now, guys, for all the talkers and for everyone down below, please connect. Look, the whole point of having these rooms is that we do connect with each other, we do encourage each other, and we do continue to have these conversations. Like I don't want to have these rooms and bring up these amazing topics and get this energy going for it to die when I hit the leave quietly button. I want this conversation to continue. So please connect with each other so that these conversations continue to have. Hey, Lou, what is going on, brother?
There is a whole lot going on, my friends.
Dude, what's going on?
Lot going on.
It's a little late for you. It's a little late for me. What are you doing?
Yeah, I got
Lou, how are you, mate?
What's going on, everybody? What's going on, Michael?
And I just want to say, can I just say one thing?
Nicole, please go ahead.
Anything,
Yo.
I will help anybody here. Like, I think we should all do something like amazing together.
Well, agreed, Nicole. Thank you for saying that. I think collectively as a group, we do better collectively together, encouraging each other than we do separately. But I think for these rooms to work, we need to be fucking honest with each other. Like we need to be straight and honest.
Sorry, just coming back to one thing that Nicole said, and I know when I used to come in and when I was managing dealerships, a lot of the time they put me into a dealership that was struggling to sort of reinvent it or to get it going and bring it into the future, if that makes sense. But one thing that Nicole touched on there that I think is a massive disconnect in those people that are in management positions is that a lot of people in a lot of dealerships don't actually look at the commission structures of the salespeople and align them with the goals of the dealership. They're so disconnected in regards to what that the dealership wants to hit a specific goal in regards to, say, gross or
100%,
numbers, where the actual commission structure doesn't favour that for them to actually go and that is where you're going to get a disconnect in regards to the culture as well, because the dealership and the salespeople are going to be fighting.
It all flows down. Yeah,
100%.
Michael, I thank you for bringing that up. I'm actually going to make a quick note of that because I actually think what you just said warrants its own topic on its own, and I think the next time we have our next strategy mob talk, that is going to be a topic in itself because it does require kind of its own amount of time. Hey Lou, I'm going to bounce back over to you because brother, I know you got some thoughts and opinions on our topics tonight, and we're going to finish with Lou, and then we're going to jump into our last topic of the night. I hope everyone's having fun tonight. You guys are enjoying yourselves. You're relaxing. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me. My name is Jason Harris. This is the Automotive Talk, a sit down with strategy mob. This is a recorded conversation, so please watch your fucking language. No, actually, I don't give a crap what you guys say or how you guys say it, because the whole point of these conversations is to be real and to be authentic and to really kind of push the envelope as far as the topics that we're talking about. Lou, man, I know you got a whole lot of thoughts when it comes to how we process culture. What's up, brother?
One, I just, again, thank you, Jason, for being a great unifier of great conversations and for making sure to bring people to a microphone and to an opportunity to speak about the things that don't get the chance to be spoken of. Some people think of, they feel, and then some people kind of trudge through and never have anybody else to lean on. You're always doing that, and I definitely appreciate it, honor it, and do the best that I can to, even emulate it and do justice to what you're trying to do for our industry, because you've been doing it far longer than me, my friend. But again,
Lou,
appreciate you.
I appreciate it, man.
Michael,
I can't. You know what? I got to be honest with you. I was actually talking to a friend the other day, and we're talking about how excited we are when the borders open up. And they're like, "What are you going to do when the borders open up?" And I was listing up a few things, and actually, in my top 3 things that I listed is I'm going to go hang out with Lou and Frederick. That's actually what I said. When the borders open up and I'm able to travel again, I'm coming down and I'm seeing you guys, and we're going to have some fun.
Well, please tell me when that is, because there is so much going on that I want to make sure that we do that and we do that right. Brother, that means so much to me, more than you know. And that would go into, my flow of what's worked inside of the exposure I've had in the automotive industry. I'm just like a lot of you all, Nicole. I hear you, William. I hear you, and I don't. Oh, where did he go? Oh, he left.
Oh no.
Anyway, but you all have seen and dealt with the bad. We've cleaned up a lot of the bad. We've figured out how to grow inside of a weed-filled industry, and a part of it is always, it is always partly because we've lacked one big thing in this industry, and I'm so grateful for the way that I've had it deposited into me, and that was honor.
Yes.
And I was blessed enough to come from the military where it took a street kid that didn't understand what true honor looked like, and made sure that you got it, you respected it, and then you valued it inside of all people around you. And that transitioned into the auto industry, to my customer relationship, to my relationship with the community. But even in any case scenario now with our dealership, we honor everybody's goals. I have a vision sheet that I make sure, the guys get on their onboarding, but this is also part of their normal counseling, a 4-point vision sheet of what they're actually pointing towards and trying to achieve, and how it is that I'm going to help them, my commitment to them. And as we focus on their goals, that's how we build our team. That's how we build our true goals as a company. I know I'm going to get this much out of my guys. And of course, you have to manage by the numbers. There's the science and the art, but pulling it together, you have to honor what their actual goal is and see how that fits to your business. If somebody wants a lot of time off, I get it, but they also are going to have to spend a lot of money while they're off, right? They're not making money, they're off, they're spending it. How do we do that together? And then you have guys that learn how to do that and then take more time off than anybody and outsell everybody. And then others that are different ways, but honoring their goals, help them to honor the vision and the mission of the actual dealership. And then from there, you have that synergy where we understand we've taken this on together. And I honor the person next to me, and I honor the person. Awesome. Nobody is actually above or beneath. We're all in this together. And we have that respect and we bring that honor. So that mainly what I would say is a key piece that needs to get plugged in there, is that we just honor each other properly and do it genuinely.
Lou, I'm actually going to push you a little bit because I want to get an example of that, because I'm with you. I think processing, right, a level of togetherness, right, ultimately leads into what we talk about, developing a culture, right? It's like we all have to be working together, right? And that buy-in, all right, I don't think comes organically. I think it comes intentionally, and I think we have to develop a process for that buy-in. So how do you process? What do you do in particular? And I don't think there's any wrong or right answer here. To create that ultimate, overall buy-in from everybody at the dealership.
Well, it has to be written and said by them. It has to be on their lips. And then there has to be the acknowledgement from yourself and then the team on something. Some of the goals of the guys don't get put out there in front of everybody. Mm-hmm. So it just depends on how you're counseling. But we often will have the guys list out what it is that they're most focused on and seeking to desire in their actual game plan for their sales inside of their personal life. And they'll put that in front of people, and they'll keep that in front of people and accountable. No different than like a support group or anything like that where you have accountability partners. The same thing. It has to be said. It has to be written. It has to be in front of everybody so that you have then the accountability, but also the buy-in. And then you organically create the encouragement because everybody now is accountable for knowing what Tyler Ramsey said was his goal. He wants to go on vacation. He put that goal in front of him. He wanted to achieve this, and then he would put that goal in front of him. Made sure to tell his wife. All the connection.
No, that makes sense. I
but
like it.
It has to be said physically. It has to be written physically, and then it has to be received. So that one, inside of the room, I just told all my guys what it is that I'm actually aiming at and what I seek to achieve. At the same time, I've also given them the authority to keep me accountable. But me as a leader, as a manager, that's all that I really need is to say, is this or is this not what you said you wanted? But with all the guys that I personally hire, I have that from beginning. This is why you said you wanted to do this. This was my commitment to you. And right now you may not like what I'm saying, but it's only because of this commitment to you. I also told you when we first met, this day would come where I might even scathe you in making sure you don't lose focus. No different than any member of my family that I truly want to see achieve their goals. I'm treating you the same. Having that real of a relationship, you have to have that. But in correlating it to like coffee, if you were to just jump into any culture, I was with Ed. You got to turn up the heat, got to set the new standard, and then we grind it all out together. And then you apply the heat, and the heat is going to extract when that water saturates everything. The heat is going to extract what the actual caffeinated substance that gets everything going. And you got to turn up the heat in your business. You have to turn up the heat on all of it, but set that standard. And but you do it by making sure that you know what they're aiming at. Because everybody is coming in different. Everybody leaves there and goes to their own home.
I'm with you on this because you have to, if you're going to connect with someone, you have to understand their why. If you look,
exactly.
Lou, I think what I hear you talking about is that if I want someone to take ownership of my why, and I'm putting myself in the context of the owner of the business, okay, if I want my team to take ownership of my why and my goals and my objectives, then I need to understand my team's why, and every individual out there's why is going to be slightly different. One person may be working because they want to put their kids through college. Another one may be working because they want to retire in the next 6 years. Another one may be working because they want to own a jet ski. I don't necessarily know, right?
Right. Everybody's college entry essay reads different, but it's the same subject.
Exactly.
Right. And that needs to be personally read and accounted for and properly graded, if that makes sense.
No, I'm with you on that. But to do that, I need to intentionally give myself the time. So I have to create a process. I have to create a process that intentionally gives myself the time to have those conversations and connect with those individuals at that level to be able to get that information.
Right. Exactly. And that goes into anything else. If that's something that you truly value, that's when you'll make that a priority. And when you realize that time to make sure that happens is exponentially growing your business without you even knowing what's happening, it's miracle grow on your business because you have vibrant people that are trying to live life together, not trying to conform to Johnny's dream or be like my sales manager or and be my finance guy. I want to blossom my bloom, and everybody is encouraging me to grow the way that I am. And then you have a true garden, which is what we are. We're all just different growing, species.
Well, we're unique individuals, and we need respect in that way. 100%.
Yeah.
I have a question because I heard from Lou there the one thing, and he tied his back to the military, and that was his foundation. And other people have tied it back to other areas, and I guess I could tie mine back to my early on in my career. But I have a question: is it lived or learned? for lack of a better way to establish it. Do you have to live through that process of culture, or can you learn it from somebody? I guess I'm really struggling with that question. And I know it's splitting hairs, but
no, Terry. No, I think that's a really good point. And thank you so much for bringing that up, because I actually do believe that if you're intentional, you can actually learn it. I'm the first one to admit that I'm not overly great at all of this. All right, but if I'm intentional in my efforts and my processes, then I can execute on this. And Terry, thank you for bringing that up, because I actually think that's a great segue into our next conversation. And Lou, by the way, thank you, man, so much for bringing the heat. You totally brought the knowledge bombs there. So I really, really, really appreciate that. Hey guys, it's almost 10:41 my time. I am going to reset the room. My name is Jason Harris. This is Automotive Talk, a sit down with the strategy mob. We are recording this conversation, so watch your fucking language. No, I really don't care. Say whatever you want. But we've had a great conversation for the last hour and 26 minutes about how to process our way to culture, and we brought some amazing knowledge. And before I move on to the next topic, I want to take a moment and thank you all, like really from the depth of my heart. Thank you so much for taking the time to participate in this conversation. I really appreciate it, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to Mob Talk. Feel free to like, follow, comment, or get a hold of me with any ideas for new content on future shows. Be sure to check out more amazing automotive content from our Strategy Mob captains and crew at strategymob.com.